My stepfather said I wasn't his blood. For years I believed him. But at 29, trying to fix a simple paperwork issue, a clerk typed my social security number and froze. This SSN was flagged by Interpol, she said. It belongs to a child who went missing, she called her supervisor. I used to think the cruelest thing my stepfather ever told me was the truth. You're not my blood, Claire. Don't expect anything from me. He said it so often that eventually I believed him, but nothing prepared me for the moment. A government clerk typed my social security number, blinked, and went completely still. Her hands froze on the keyboard. Her face drained of color. Then she whispered, "Ma'am, this SSN was flagged by Interpol." I thought she was joking. A glitch. A mistake. But she leaned closer, voice trembling. "It belongs to a child who went missing 29 years ago." Before I could breathe, she called her supervisor. When the man arrived, he took one look at me, at my face, then whispered a single truth that shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. A truth I was never meant to find. First person, Claire. People assume emotional abuse is loud. Mine wasn't. It was quiet, precise, a drip that hollowed me out over years. My stepfather, Mark Hatcher, never hit me. He didn't need to. His words did the work. The first time he said it, I was 11. I was washing dishes when a glass slipped from my hand and cracked in the sink. He didn't shout. He didn't curse. He just looked at me cold, bored, and murmured, "You're not my blood, Claire. Stop acting like this is your home." That sentence buried itself in me deeper than any bruise could. I remember standing there, hands shaking in soapy water, wanting to disappear. My mother, Linda, heard him. She glanced over from the hallway, then lowered her eyes. She didn't defend me. She never did. By the time I turned 16, the sentence had become routine, like a slogan he repeated to remind me of my place. If I asked for new shoes, "Emily needs them. She's my blood. You'll manage." If I reached for seconds at dinner, "Save some for family." If I tried to join a conversation, "Stay out of this, Claire. Not everything concerns you." My stepsister Emily, younger than me by 2 years, wasn't cruel. If anything, she was kind in ways she wasn't supposed to be. She'd slip me her old sweaters, save me a cupcake from school, whisper things like, "I'm sorry, Dad talks to you that way." But she was scared of him too. We all were. My 18th birthday should have meant freedom. Instead, I found 2 suitcases by the door when I came home from my grocery store shift. Mark sat in his recliner, arms crossed, TV remote in hand like a judge waiting to pass sentence. He didn't even turn down the volume. 18, he said. "Good. Time for you to get out and start your own life. You're not my responsibility anymore." Never were. I looked at my mother, my kidnapper, though I didn't know that then. She stood in the kitchen doorway with a dish towel clenched in her hands, trembling. But she said nothing. Not stop. Not, "She's my daughter." Not even goodbye, Emily cried, hugging me tight on the porch. "Don't go far, Claire. Please, you're my sister. I don't care what he says." But I left anyway because deep down, I had already accepted what Mark had carved into my identity. I didn't belong anywhere. I didn't know yet that he was wrong. I didn't know a missing child file with my real face on it existed somewhere in an FBI archive. I didn't know 2 people across the country had spent 29 years searching for me. Back then, all I knew was this. When Mark closed the door behind me, the world didn't feel bigger. It felt emptier. And for more than a decade, I lived like someone who had no roots, no history, no blood. After I left Mark's house at 18, I thought freedom would feel like a sunrise. Instead, it felt like cold concrete and cheap fluorescent lights. My first night alone was spent in the backseat of my dented '03 Corolla, hugging my duffel bag like it contained the last pieces of me. Maybe it did. I found a room to rent the next week. More like a closet with peeling wallpaper. But it was mine. Mine. Even if rain leaked through the window frame. Mine. Even if the heater rattled like it was coughing up its last breath. I worked 3 jobs to keep it. Job 1. Grocery store cashier. Job 2. Nighttime server at a rundown diner. Job 3. Cleaning cages at a pet boarding facility on weekends. I was so tired all the time that sleep felt like a rumor other people experienced. Still, I kept going because what else was I supposed to do? I had no family to call, no father figure, a mother who had whispered more apologies to Mark than she ever gave me, and an identity I never knew was a lie. Back then, I believed Mark's words were simply my fate. "You'll never be part of anything real, Claire. Girls like you end up begging." So, I refused to beg. Even when the diner cut my hours. Even when the grocery store added me to the on-call only list. Even when I sprained my wrist, lifting dog food bags for the pet center and they fired me because medical limitations weren't convenient for them. By 29, I'd lived 11 years without leaning on a single person. Not a friend, not a relative, certainly not Linda or Mark. Then everything hit at once. A severe flu left me unable to work for a week. My savings, what little existed, drained into cold medicine and rent. When I returned to the warehouse job I had picked up, I pushed myself too hard, lifting heavy boxes. Something inside my shoulder popped. I collapsed against the pallet, gasping, the pain sharp enough to blur my vision. My supervisor didn't even look at me when he said, "Clock out, Claire." We'll call you if we need you. They didn't call. Painkillers emptied my wallet. Rent devoured what was left. For the first time since leaving Mark's house, I sat on my mattress and truly felt the weight of being alone. That's when Emily called. Her voice sounded older, steadier. We hadn't spoken in years. "Claire, I heard you got hurt. Are you okay?" I almost hung up. Not because I hated her, never her, but because I couldn't bear for anyone who had stayed in that house to hear me sound weak. "I'm fine," I lied. She hesitated. "Dad shouldn't have kicked you out. I think about it all the time. I wish I could have done something." Her voice cracked, and for a moment, I heard the 12-year-old girl who used to sneak cupcakes to me, but I couldn't let myself accept comfort. Comfort meant vulnerability. Vulnerability meant danger. "It's in the past. I'm okay. Don't worry." We hung up and I immediately cried quietly like I had learned to as a child. Silent tears. No sound, no breath because I wasn't okay. My shoulder throbbed. My bank account balance mocked me. And for the first time, the fear I'd denied for years whispered, "You can't do this alone anymore." But Mark's voice whispered louder, "Girls like you end up begging." It took a fever, a shaking hand, and a half-expired bottle of ibuprofen for me to finally do what I swore I'd never do. I walked into the county office to apply for temporary medical assistance. A simple paperwork issue, I told myself. Just a form. Just a signature. Just help. Nothing shameful about needing help. I didn't know that within minutes that simple paperwork issue would tear my entire identity apart. A few minutes after Randolph made his call, the air in the office shifted. Not metaphorically, literally. People went quiet. A security guard stepped closer to me, pretending to check the exit. Staff began whispering like a storm was approaching. Papers shuffled, doors clicked shut. Then she walked in. A woman in a navy FBI jacket, hair in a low ponytail, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. She flashed a badge, Agent Patricia Morris, Missing Children Division. My heart dropped into my stomach. For a second, I actually looked behind me because surely she wasn't here for me. I wasn't missing. I wasn't anything. But she walked straight toward my chair. "Claire," she said softly, "I need you to stay calm. I just want to talk." My throat closed. What is going on? What does Interpol have to do with me? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she studied my face the way Randolph had, like she already knew something I didn't. Then she sat down across from me. "Before we begin, do you remember your life before age 5? "If of course I do," I said quickly. Too quickly. Some part of me already sensed where this was heading. "Tell me," she pressed gently. "Tell me a memory." I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. I tried harder. A kitchen, a song, a toy. Images flickered like static, too blurry to touch. "I remember." I swallowed. "A white crib or maybe a playpen and someone humming. That's all." Agent Morris nodded as if she expected that. "What about the hospital where you were born?" "I don't know." "Your first doctor?" "No idea." "Your father's funeral?" I froze. "My stepfather Mark, he told me my father died when I was 3. "What year was that?" she asked. "I don't know. I guess 98 or 97. "I don't." My voice cracked. "Why does this matter?" Agent Morris placed a folder on the desk, a thick one, with a red label I recognized from documentaries and news clips. "Active missing child case. Palmer, female infant, 1994. My hands shook. "That's not," I tried to laugh. "That's not me. It can't be." She opened the folder and slid out a photograph. A grainy baby picture. Dark curls, wide green eyes that looked exactly like mine. "When you were born," Agent Morris said carefully, "your name was Claire Palmer. Your biological parents reported you abducted from a grocery store parking lot 29 years ago." My lungs forgot how to work. "That's no. My mother, Linda, she raised me." Linda Hatcher is not your biological mother," the agent interrupted. "She never reported a birth, not in any state." My world tilted. Randolph stepped closer. "Claire, this isn't a mistake. We ran the biometric comparison before Agent Morris arrived. You matched the Palmer age progression profile with 97.4% accuracy." "No," I whispered. "This is insane." The agent leaned forward, voice low, steady. "Claire, you were never abandoned. You were taken." The sentence sliced through me. Taken, stolen, missing. My childhood, every memory, every story Linda told me, shattered like glass hitting tile. "I want to go," I said suddenly, standing up. "I didn't do anything wrong. I want to leave, Claire." Agent Morris gently placed a hand on my arm. "You're not under arrest, but you need to hear the rest." I squeezed my eyes shut, fighting tears. "The rest of what?" She took a slow breath. "Your biological parents, Jennifer and Michael Palmer, have been searching for you for 29 years. They never stopped. When Interpol sent the alert, we contacted them." I stared at her. She held my gaze with something like pity intertwining with hope. "Claire, they're already on a plane." My knees buckled and I sank back into the chair. For the first time in my life, I felt like the floor beneath me wasn't just falling. It was being pulled away by a truth too big to outrun. They took me straight from the county office to a federal building across town. I didn't fight them. I was too numb to fight anything. Every mile we drove felt like another thread snapping inside me. Agent Morris sat beside me, calm but watchful, like I was something fragile that might collapse if jolted too hard. "Claire," she said quietly. "We located Linda Hatcher." "Cried you?" My stomach twisted. "Located her? What does that mean?" Morris paused, then delivered the blow. "She tried to flee the state this afternoon. We intercepted her at a bus station." I grabbed the seat. "She what? Why would she run?" The agent didn't answer. Because the answer was obvious. Because guilty people run. When we arrived, Morris guided me into an interview room. Sterile white walls, too bright lighting, a metal table that looked cold even from a distance. And sitting on the other side was Linda. Her wrists were cuffed, her eyes were red, swollen, trembling. When she saw me, she gasped like she'd seen a ghost. "Clea," she whispered. "Baby, please listen to me. Don't call me that." My voice was ice. She broke right there, sobbing, shaking, collapsing into herself. Agent Morris stayed back, but watched everything. I sat down slowly, never taking my eyes off the woman I thought was my mother for 29 years. "Tell me the truth," I said. "All of it. Every piece." Linda shook her head violently. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I didn't start talking." She inhaled sharply like she was drowning. "I lost a baby," she choked out. "Before you, a little girl. She died during delivery." Mark was furious, said I'd failed him, said I was worthless as a wife and a mother. My pulse hammered. She continued. "1 week after the funeral, I was at the grocery store. I saw your real mother loading groceries." She looked away for just a second. Just 1 second. My vision blurred. "No, I don't know what came over me." Linda sobbed. "I heard Mark's voice in my head telling me I wasn't enough. And then I looked at you. You were so small, so perfect. I thought if I bring him this baby, he won't leave me." My entire body went cold. "You took me," I whispered. "You stole me." "I'm sorry," she cried. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. Sorry." Rage boiled up like something volcanic. "You let me grow up thinking my father was dead. You let Mark treat me like trash because I wasn't his blood. You let him throw me out at 18. Linda flinched like each sentence was a slap. "I tried to protect you," she whimpered. "Protect me?" I stood up so fast the chair screeched. "You let him destroy me. You let him tell me I wasn't his blood. You let me leave with nothing." Linda shook her head rapidly. "No, no, Claire. You don't understand. Mark knew the truth. He knew I took you. He knew you weren't his and he hated you for it. I begged him to treat you better. Begged him to keep quiet until you were 18 so you wouldn't get taken away." "Taken away?" I shouted. "Linda, I was taken away by you." She collapsed into sobs so violent she could barely breathe. Agent Morris stepped forward. "Claire, you can take a break." "No." I wiped tears off my face with shaking hands. "I want the rest." Linda forced herself upright. "The day Mark told you to leave, he knew the FBI was starting to look at cold cases again. He panicked. He said if they found out what we did, he'd go to prison. He told me, 'Kick her out, Linda. She's not ours. She's not worth destroying our lives for.'" It felt like a blade sliding straight into my ribcage. That sentence, "not worth destroying our lives for." That was how they thought of me. Only then did something inside me snap. Not with anger, but with clarity. "Did you ever love me?" I asked quietly. Linda froze. Her crying stopped. She looked up at me with a shattered expression. "Yes," she whispered. "More than anything, you were my second chance, my miracle. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I loved you. I still do." I stared at her and for the first time in 29 years, I realized love means nothing if it isn't paired with truth. I stepped back. Agent Morris moved toward me. Linda reached out desperately despite the cuffs. "Claire, please, please don't leave me like this." I met her eyes one last time. "You left me long before today." Then I turned away, walked out of the room, and didn't look back. Outside, Morris rested a hand on my shoulder. "We contacted your biological parents," she said softly. "They're landing in an hour." My breath hitched. They've been waiting 29 years for this moment. I closed my eyes, feeling everything in me tremble. Fear, grief, hope, all crashing together. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't walking toward emptiness. I was walking toward the truth. Agent Morris didn't take me to some dramatic airport gate like in the movies. Instead, she led me to a quiet federal briefing room with neutral walls and chairs that looked like they'd never once felt joy. "Your parents will be here any minute," she told me. Parents? The word felt too big for my mouth, too fragile to touch. For 29 years, I didn't belong to anyone. And now, 2 people were walking into this building, believing I was their lost daughter. I stood in the corner, hugging my elbows, shaking so hard my teeth tapped together. "I must have looked like a wild animal ready to bolt, Claire," Agent Morris said gently. "They're good people. Take your time. You don't have to say anything you're not ready to say." I nodded, though I couldn't feel my legs. Then the door opened. A woman stepped in. Small, maybe 5 feet tall, shoulders trembling, hands covering her mouth like she was holding herself together with her fingers. Her eyes green with a fleck of amber in the left one. Met mine, and she crumbled. "Oh, oh God," she whispered. "Claire, my baby girl." Her knees buckled. Agent Morris moved to steady her. but the woman waved her off and took a shaky step toward me. I froze. I didn't move. I couldn't. Her voice broke into pieces. For a few seconds, she couldn't speak at all. Then, she said the sentence that obliterated every wall I had ever built. "I knew you were alive." A sob tore out of her like it had been trapped for decades. Behind her, a man entered, tall, broad shoulders, graying beard, eyes full of tears he wasn't even attempting to hide. "Claire," he said hoarsely, "I'm your father." God, sweetheart, I can't believe you're here." I pressed myself back against the wall, overwhelmed. "I don't remember you," I blurted out. Silence swallowed the room. The woman didn't flinch. She nodded through tears. "You were 6 months old," she whispered. "We don't expect you to remember. We just prayed you'd come home." Her voice cracked on home. Something inside me cracked with it. The man, my father, took a careful step forward. "We kept your room," he said quietly. "Just in case. We never changed it. Not once." Their grief was a tidal wave crashing over me. Suffocating, enormous, impossible to stand against. Then another figure appeared in the doorway. A man in his 20s, late 20s, tall, nervous as hell. His hands were shaking. "Claire," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Ethan. I'm your brother. My brother." The words punched the air from my lungs. He took one step closer. "I always thought if you were alive somewhere, maybe you'd come find us. I used to talk to your picture growing up. I used to tell you about my school, my birthdays, stupid little things." He laughed weakly, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. "I told Mom I'd teach you to ride a bike someday." I hadn't cried during the interrogation. I hadn't cried when Linda confessed. I hadn't cried when Agent Morris told me I'd been missing for 29 years. But I cried now because the weight of being wanted deeply, fiercely, was heavier than the weight of being abandoned. I took a step toward them, then another. My mother, my real mother, lifted a trembling hand to my face. "Can I?" she whispered. I nodded. Her fingers brushed my cheek, feather light, and something inside my chest snapped open. A door I didn't know was locked. She pulled me into her arms, crying into my shoulder, whispering my name like a prayer she'd repeated every night for 3 decades. My father wrapped his arms around both of us, his body shaking. Ethan pressed his forehead against mine. And for the first time in 29 years, I felt something I had never tasted in Mark's house. Never found living alone. Never believed I deserved belonging. Not just blood belonging. I wasn't nobody's child. I was theirs. And they had been waiting, searching, aching for this moment my entire life. Reuniting with my biological family wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a storm I didn't know how to navigate, because love is powerful. But so are questions and guilt and unfinished wounds. For days after the reunion, I stayed at a hotel arranged by the FBI. They wanted me close, but not overwhelmed. Jennifer called every morning just to ask if I'd eaten. Michael texted pictures of old family photos he thought might jog a memory. Ethan waited outside my door one night with takeout because he didn't trust hotel food. It was overwhelming, but in a way that felt like sunlight after a lifetime of dim rooms. Still, there were shadows I couldn't ignore. The first came when Agent Morris approached me gently. "Claire, Linda requested to see you." Just once. I didn't answer right away. Every instinct in me recoiled. But another part, a part that still remembered her brushing my hair before school, holding ice to my scraped knees, singing lullabies she claimed were mine, whispered, "You need closure." I finally said, "I'll go." The room was colder than the FBI interview room, colder than anything I had ever felt Linda be. She sat behind the glass, pale, hollow, eyes red from crying. When I lifted the phone receiver, she mirrored me, hands shaking. "Claire." She breathed my name like a confession, like a plea. "I didn't think you'd come." "I'm not here to comfort you," I said quietly. "I'm here for answers. It is not a side. Asperge W and gang aw." She nodded slowly. "I'll tell you anything." For a moment, neither of us spoke. I realized she looked older, tired, fragile, far more broken than the woman who raised me. "Why didn't you ever tell me the truth?" I asked. She closed her eyes. "Because if I did, I'd lose you. And I couldn't bear losing another child." "You lost me anyway," I whispered. A tear slipped down her cheek. "I know, Mark. He used my guilt to control me. I wanted to leave him so many times, but the lie had gone too far. And then you grew up, and I didn't know how to undo what I'd done without hurting you." I swallowed hard. "You hurt me anyway," I said. "Every day, in ways you didn't see, and ways you chose not to see." Linda nodded, shoulders trembling. "I know. I failed you. And I failed the girl I once was. The girl who wanted to be a mother so badly, she made the worst decision a woman could make." Her voice cracked. "If you hate me, I understand." I stared at her. Hate was easy. Hate burned hot. But beneath it, buried deep, was grief. Not for her. For the childhood I should have had. For the mother who cried for me for 29 years. For the person I became because of lies. "I don't hate you," I said finally. "But I don't forgive you either." Linda broke apart quietly, covering her mouth to muffle her sobs. I hung up the receiver gently and walked away. Back outside, my phone buzzed. "Emily," I hesitated before answering. "Clara," she said softly. "I saw the news. I don't know what to say. Claire, you don't have to say anything, I replied. I just need you to know, she continued shakily, that you were always my sister. Always. Even when Dad tried to make me believe otherwise, my throat tightened. I miss you, she whispered. I want you in my life. If you let me. It hit me then. Emily was as much a casualty of Mark and Linda's choices as I was. I want that too, I said. And for the first time, I meant it. That evening, when Jennifer hugged me at the door of the house that should have been mine all along, I didn't stiffen. I let myself lean in just a little. Michael cooked dinner. Ethan joked badly to make me smile. There were tears, laughter, awkward pauses, but all of it felt real. Not perfect, but honest. For the first time, I felt like I existed in a space where my presence wasn't tolerated. It was cherished. I wasn't healed. Not yet, but I was finally home. Healing wasn't a straight line. It was a maze one. I walked with shaking legs and a heart that had no idea what normal felt like. But for the first time, I wasn't walking alone. Jennifer would sit with me on the porch at sunset, handing me hot tea even if I didn't ask for it. Michael checked every lock in the house before bed. Like protecting me now meant something he owed to the child he couldn't protect then. And Ethan texted me 13 times a day. Have you eaten? Did you sleep? Want to see the old park near our school? I wasn't ready to say I felt like their daughter or sister. Yet those words carried weight I needed to grow into. But something inside me had begun to thaw. But the turning point, the moment everything shifted, happened a month later. Jennifer took me to the Palmer Foundation's headquarters. A renovated brick building with photos of missing children lining the walls. Some had been found. Some never would. Some were still out there waiting. As I walked past the images, something tightened in my chest. I paused in front of one picture. A boy, age 8, brown hair, missing for a year. He looked scared. I murmured. He is, Jennifer whispered. Most missing children are, but they're also brave, just like you. I felt my throat close. A woman nearby overheard and approached cautiously. Are you Claire Palmer? She asked, voice trembling. The girl who came home after 29 years? I nodded. She burst into tears. My niece has been missing for 3. Your story? It gives us hope. Hope? A word I'd rarely been associated with. That night, I stood in the empty hallway, staring at the wall of unsolved cases. For the first time in my life, I didn't see victims. I saw myself and the version of me who never came home. Suddenly, the path ahead wasn't blurry anymore. I turned to Jennifer. I want to work here, I said. I want to help bring them home. She pressed a shaking hand to her mouth, eyes filling with tears. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered. You already are. Within weeks, I was training with investigators, helping rebuild old case files, speaking with families who lived in the same painful limbo my parents lived through for nearly 3 decades. One afternoon, a detective handed me a folder. You'll want to see this, he said. It was a missing child case with circumstances eerily similar to mine. A toddler taken from a store parking lot. My pulse quickened. Is there a chance? Yes, he said. And we need someone who understands how these patterns work. Someone like you. We found that little boy 3 weeks later alive, when his mother collapsed around him, sobbing thanks to the heavens. I felt something inside me settle. For the first time, the fractured pieces of who I was finally aligned. Not Claire Hatcher. Not the girl who grew up unwanted. Not the stolen infant buried in an archive for 29 years, but Claire Palmer, a woman who had crawled out of a lie and walked into the truth, stronger than anyone expected. Forgiveness is complicated, but healing sometimes looks like sitting across from someone who once stood behind the same closed door you did. Emily and I met at a small cafe between our towns. She hugged me like she was afraid I'd vanish again. I'm not going back to that house, she told me. Mark can rot alone. I want you in my life, Claire. Real life. Sister life. I smiled for the first time in days. I want that, too, I whispered. Some ties break forever. Others unexpectedly grow stronger. One quiet evening, Jennifer led me to the room that had been mine 29 years ago. The crib was long gone, replaced with a bed and soft light, but the wallpaper, tiny pastel stars, was the same. We kept it, she whispered. For you, always for you. I ran my fingers over the paint. I'm home, I said softly. You're home, she repeated. And for the first time in 29 years, the words didn't feel borrowed. They felt true. I framed the old social security number, the one that belonged to a girl who never truly existed, and placed it on my desk at the foundation, not as a reminder of lies, but as proof of survival. Every time I look at it, I remember. I was told for years I didn't belong to anyone, that I wasn't blood, that I was nothing. But the truth I learned, I was somebody's everything, and I always had been. Sometimes the life stolen from you becomes the life you fight hardest to protect. Sometimes the child who goes missing becomes the adult who brings others home. And sometimes, against all odds, you find your way back to where you were always meant to.